Hi, everybody. This is the baseball head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the baseball head, too. And hope you like this video and hit that subscribe button. This is a little bit different. This is more of my reaction to this thing the MLB network put out this past week. And I'm going to do a lot of videos on this because these lists that they put out on the greatest players since 1947. There are a lot of mistakes in this, and quite frankly, they should fire the people that did the research for this and put this together. So, but they have a series of like half-hour shows called Prime 9. Now they put one out back in 2009, and it was spot on perfect. And what they did was they had basically every player that ever played in the majors, every team, every manager, and they did these lists with every team and every player since the beginning on these lists. And they came out great. And all these different programs were terrific. Every single one of them was great. Now, they put out a new list this past week. And it's basically since 1947. In other words, they put it out since the beginning of integration. And I've been going over these lists over the last few hours. And the first one that caught my eye was the starting pitcher one, which they put out on Friday, December 14th, 15th, or whatever. 15th. And I was not too happy with some of the placement of some of the pitchers and a couple of major omissions on this list. Two in particular were off this list. They were on the list that they put out in 2009, which was a more encompassing list and a much more interesting list than this one in particular. I have a lot of ideas for videos. You need to hit that subscribe button because there are a lot of players, a lot of sort of names that you know that were omitted. And this pitching list was a major omission on the part of the MLB network. We'll start at the top because that's fine. At number one, they had Randy Johnson. You can see the list here on the side here. Randy Johnson was number one. That's fine. 3 or 4 guys could be number one off of this list, including the list, and a couple, and another name that's not on the list could have been a top 3 pitcher or a top 4 pitcher. But Randy Johnson is number one on this list. Obviously, the Hall of Famer, 303 wins. His winning percentage is .646, was very high. 5 Cy Young Awards, 1 Triple Crown, 4 ERA titles, the 2001 World Series winner. He had 2 no-hitters. He had 321 seasons, and he had 4,875 strikeouts, second all time. No problem. He could be number one. You could have went number 2 with him. You could have went number 3 with him. Any number of ways you could have went with that. And number 2, great Met Tom Seaver, pitched for the Reds, the White Sox. Hall of Famer, had one of the highest vote totals to get into the Hall of Fame. Up until recently, Griffey was there, Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, but he was at 98%, which is one of the highest percentages in the history of baseball. Won 311 games, had a .603 winning percentage, 3 Cy Young Awards, 521 seasons, had pitched a no-hitter in 1978, I believe, 3 ERA titles, 3,640 strikeouts. He's 6th all-time on the strikeout list still. 1969 World Series winner, Rookie of the Year in 1967. Had several strikeout titles. There's no saying anything negative about Tom Seaver. Tom Seaver could have went number 1 on this list, and he could have went number 1 on this list for an all-time list. To be honest with you, just to be honest with you, because he was not pitching on great teams for most of his career with the Mets. The Mets did not score a lot of runs for him. He probably could have won another 40 games, to be honest with you, in his career. And obviously, when he came back in '83, that was a bad Met team. Number 3 on this list, which I was very surprised that he was high on this list. And considering the kind of criteria they had and the inconsistencies with the criteria and under other positions on the Prime 9 series, this current one, this is a little bit of an issue. And that's Warren Spahn of the Braves. Obviously, he pitched in Milwaukee, pitched in Boston, pitched in, I guess, in Atlanta for a bit, and obviously he finished his career with the New York Mets at the end. A couple of things about him. Hall of Famer, okay, 363 wins, fine. 597 winning percentage, 1 Cy Young Award, 3 ERA titles, 1957 World Series winner, 2,583 strikeouts. Now, he has the most 20-win seasons of this group of players, and even the additional players that I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. 12 times in his career, won 20 games. The only issue is, and this is a small thing with me, is they wanted to stay away from players prior to 47. He pitched in 1942 and he pitched in 1946. It's a small thing. I wouldn't have had him this high on the list. I don't know why they had him this high on the list, quite frankly. You know, I know he was a great hitter as a pitcher, but I would, when I think of greatness, he's not number 3. Okay. At number 4, current guy, somewhat current guy, Atlanta Braves, Chicago Cub, Greg Maddux, Hall of Famer, 355 wins, 4 Cy Young Awards, 4-time ERA titles, 1995 World Series winner, 18 Gold Gloves, the most for a pitcher, 3,371 strikeouts. I would not put him, he's number 4. I wouldn't have put him so high on this list, quite frankly. He probably would have been lower at 8 or 9 on this list, in my view. Okay. He was a guy, specifically the last 10, 15 years of his career, was a guy that did not go past 90 pitches. So he's a 90-pitch pitcher. The way they waxed poetic about him during this prime 9 was a little disingenuous about how his innings were, specifically the last 10 to 15 years of his career. He hit 90 pitches, he was out of the game. It didn't matter if the Braves were winning or losing. He was out after 90 games, after 90 pitches. It didn't matter how big of a game it was. I wouldn't have put him that high on the list. Okay, next guy on, and this is a guy that's not in the Hall of Fame, but in my opinion, he should be. I'm not the biggest fan of him because he obviously, with the issue of the PEDs, they didn't mention the PEDs with him, and obviously he was a bit of a jerk, a big jerk. That's Boston Red Sox, Toronto Blue Jay, New York Yankee, Roger Clemens. He's a Hall of Famer based off of his work with the Red Sox, because for the most part, I think we can all agree that when he was with the Red Sox, if his career ended with 192 wins and not having this steroid stigma to him, he would be in the Hall of Fame. But we'll go through his numbers. 354 wins, the 1986 most valuable player in the American League, 7 Cy Young Awards, 2 Triple Crowns, 7 ERA titles, 2-time World Series winner in 99-2000, 658 winning percentage, 6 20-win seasons. But because of his issues off the field and you know, on the side, he's not a Hall of Famer. I have no issue with him obviously being on the list. I wouldn't have put him so high on the list. I would have penalized him due to the fact of his issues. At number 6, the guy with the highest winning percentage of the guys that's a Hall of Famer and on this list is Pedro Martinez. Obviously, the great Boston Red Sox and Montreal Expo. 219 wins. He's got the second lowest win total of this list. Third lowest. 3 Cy Young Awards. Won the Triple Crown. 5 ERA titles. 2004 World Series winner. 687 winning percentage. Like I said, the highest winning percentage of this group. That's a Hall of Famer. 3,154 strikeouts. 2-time 20-win seasons. Did not pitch a no-hitter. He was sort of a mixed bag with him at postseason. And I bring up postseason, we'll get to a couple of the last pitchers on this list. Next on the list, Sandy Koufax, number 7 on this list. Koufax should be first of all, Koufax is a Hall of Famer. He should be in the top 3, if not number 1. You can make the argument between him, Seaver, and Johnson being number 1 on this list. To me, Sandy Koufax is number 1 on this list. I would put Sandy number 1. Sandy, Johnson, and Seaver. That's how I would put it. He's got the lowest win total, and he has the lowest win total in the Hall of Fame. 165 wins, but a 655 winning percentage. 3 Cy Young Awards, 3 Triple Crowns, 5 ERA titles, 4 no-hitters, including a perfect game, 4 World Series wins, 55, 59, 63, and 66. 2,396 strikeouts. He would have had higher numbers but he retired at age 30. Now the next guy, and this is a guy that should not be on this list. This is not denigrating this player, this pitcher, and that's Hall of Famer Nolan Ryan. He's got, we'll go through the numbers, 324 wins, 2 ERA titles, 1969 World Series winner, 220-win seasons, 5,714 strikeouts, the most in baseball history, 7 no-hitters. I would not put him on this list. His winning percentage over the course of his career was .524, which is the lowest of all the players on this list, including the other 2 players I'm going to talk about at the end of this that weren't on this list. And Ryan, quite frankly, did not win a Cy Young. He did not at any point in the American League when he was with the Angels. He's one of the highest, he has the all-time record for most walks for a pitcher to go with those strikeouts. No one's denigrating, and I'm not denigrating his abilities. This guy was one of the hardest throwers in the history of the game, one of the toughest competitors. But he is not on the level of any of these pitchers under any circumstance. He's there, but he's, first of all, when he pitched with Tom Seaver, Seaver was better. When he pitched with Jerry Kuzman was better. When he pitched with J.R. Richards, they were equals. When he pitched in the 80s with Mike Scott had better seasons. So as great as Nolan Ryan is, and there's no knock on him and his abilities, he should not be on this list. He is the least accomplished. All the other players, all the other pitchers on this list have won Cy Young Awards, have won MVPs. He has not. He did not. He is the one that I take the biggest issue with being on this list. He should not be on this list. At number 9, Clayton Kershaw, not in the Hall of Fame yet, that's fine. 210 wins, 695 winning percentage, 3 Cy Young Awards, 1 Triple Crown, 5 ERA titles, 2020 World Series winner, 695 winning percentage. That's the highest of any of the players on this list. 2,944 strikeouts and a couple of no-hitters to his name. I don't take issue with him being on the list, but if you have him on the list and 2 other players that are off of this list aren't on the list, I have a major problem. So here is one of the omissions on this that's not on this list of pitchers that should be in the top 9, prime 9 that MLB Network screwed up. Steve Carlton, Hall of Famer. I would mention about Kershaw. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. That's not an issue. Steve Carlton, Hall of Famer. 329 wins. 4 Cy Young Awards. Won the Triple Crown. 1967, 1980 World Series winner. 1 ERA title. 574 winning percentage. 621 seasons. 4,136 strikeouts. When he retired, he had the second most strikeouts in baseball. And at the time, he and Nolan Ryan were neck and neck in terms of strikeout totals. When they were chasing Walter Johnson and they were chasing 4,000 strikeouts, they were neck and neck. And obviously, Steve Carlton had a major lead on him when it came to the strikeout totals. Why is he not on this list? And why is Nolan Ryan on this list? Who would you rather have as a starter on your team? Nolan Ryan or Steve Carlton? Steve Carlton, no doubt. So to me, that is the biggest omission, one of the 2 big omissions on this list. He's not a top 5 guy, but he needs to be on this list. So he needs to be on this list. I will put him in, and I'll take Clayton Kershaw out. Because I got to take somebody out. He's the bomb. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Okay? Next up, and this is the most egregious one, and this is the one that irritates me the most. And really is the genesis of me doing this video and further videos is the legendary Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson's not on this list. Hall of Famer, 251 wins, 591 winning percentage, 1968 MVP, 2-time Cy Young Award winner, 3,117 strikeouts, 64 and the 67 World Series winner, and of course the 67 MVP. Has the most strikeouts in one game for a pitcher in any World Series game. He's got an ERA title. Obviously, the legendary 1.12 ERA that he had in 1968. That 1968 season was so historic and had such an effect on Major League Baseball that after that 68 season, they lowered the mound to make it more even for the hitters. That the pitching was so incredible that they needed to do something. He's also a 5-time 20-win season winner. So it wasn't just 1 year, and he won 2 Cy Young Awards, one in 68 and one in 1970. And from 68, 69, 70, he won over 20 games. And obviously 21 seasons as well, like I said. He is the most egregious name that's not on this list. And he's the other name, quite frankly, he can go top 2. You could go with this. This is how I would do it. I mean, you can go, there's any 4 names here, you can do a top 4. This would be my top 4. Koufax, Gibson, Randy Johnson, Tom Seaver. The rest of the guys, you can mix and match them. Obviously, Clayton Kershaw's off this list, and Nolan Ryan's off this list. Bob Gibson was a historically great postseason winner. Won 7 games in the World Series, 7-2 in the World Series. Had huge moments in postseason. Nolan Ryan did not. He was a reliever on the 69 Mets and did not pitch well in 86, and obviously the 1980 Astros were beaten by the Phillies in that historic series in the NLCS. But this would be my list. The top 4 are set in stone. Koufax, Gibson, and I would mention Koufax was one of the great all-time postseason pitchers as well. Koufax, Gibson, Randy Johnson, Tom Seaver. The rest of the guys you can kind of go back and forth on. I would put Rowan Spahn at the bottom of this list. But Greg Maddux, Roger Clemens, Pedro, and I would put Warren Spahn at the bottom. And Steve Carlton there too, somewhere. Maybe I put Carlton 7, I guess. But really, what they did with this list was lazy. Because how do you omit Bob Gibson? And this is after 47. How do you omit Steve Carlton? Again, Nolan Ryan did not win a Cy Young. He did not win an MVP. He was not a prolific postseason pitcher. Gibson is far above, head and shoulders, one of the great all-time pitchers. He is a top 5 pitcher. He's up there with Grover Cleveland Alexander. He's up there with Walter Johnson. He's up there with Christy Mathewson. He is up there with the greats. He's up there with the legendary players in the history of this game. The fact that he's not on this list basically destroys this entire list. And in fact, I was going through some of the other positions, the other players on these other lists, and there are major omissions and major mismatches where some players were put at different positions. There's a second baseman, he was put on the first base list. There's a left fielder put on the first base list. On the second base list for Prime 9, there are several non-Hall of Famers on that list. Several. Half the list are non-Hall of Famers. And one Hall of Famer is on another list. It is insanity. Makes no sense. And that's the problem with this list in particular, is there is a lot of players on these lists, and this new list, and this new primetime grouping that are not Hall of Famers since 1947. And there are major names not on the list. I'll give you one name that's not on the list. I'll have a video on him. Joe DiMaggio is not on the center field list. If you're going to have Warren Spahn, who played prior to 1947, you're going to have Joe DiMaggio, who played after 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. He won 11 World Series championships out of 13 seasons. He's not on the list. Okay? So I have a major problem with some of the things that MLB has done with this particular situation. But let me know what you think about this video. Hopefully you like it. I'm going to do more videos like this. I think this is an interesting topic. I don't know if they did this on purpose to get people talking about it, but I'm going to hammer the hell out of it because this is a mess. This entire grouping. There's a couple of lists, that aren't that bad. The catchers list, other than the sequencing of the catchers, is fine. They got all the names right. For the most part, third base is fine. The relievers are fine. The relievers is the easiest one. Because really, relievers is a fairly new thing in baseball, the last 40, 50 years. That's an easy list to do. But first base is a mess. Second base is the biggest mess of all. Shortstop's okay. Third base is okay. Left field needs a lot of work. And center field doesn't have Joe DiMaggio. And right field has another steroid guy who I'm not a big fan of in right field. But we'll get into that when we get into that. Of course, let me know what you think about this video. What do you think about Bob Gibson not on this list and Steve Carlton not on this list? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.